Hi everyone, and today we're discussing what gastroparesis is. Gastroparesis is defined by delayed gastric emptying and is caused by a variety of reasons. Gastroparesis is considered a rare disease. Out of 100,000 people, about 10 men and 40 women have gastroparesis. Unfortunately, I am one of those people, and it is a huge struggle. Doctors will often blame the stomach issues on anxiety if you're a woman, making an already hard diagnosis even harder to diagnose. The study they do to diagnose it is called the gastric emptying study, also known as GES. You have to eat some tasty radioactive eggs or oatmeal if you have an egg intolerance. Strangely, I had to bring my own toast and jam. Don't ask me what that's about, because I still don't know and thought it was very, very strange. Then they scan you every hour for 4 hours to see how much your stomach has digested. At the end of the test, only 10% or less of the food should be in there. In my case, I had 50% of the food left. So I had to see a fancy motility doctor at Boston Children's, who is pretty rude and does not listen. But it's the life of being a girl and seeing fancy doctors that think they know everything. Again, probably should not sass him, but, he's pretty rude. Anyway. The most common reason for gastroparesis is due to poorly controlled diabetes. Diabetes can damage nerves, like the vagus nerve, which controls the muscles of the stomach and small intestines. Another cause of gastroparesis can be medication. Some medications can have a side effect of delayed gastric emptying, like some antidepressants, antihistamines, and high blood pressure medications. The gastroparesis symptoms may go away if you stop the medication. If you already have gastroparesis, these medications may make your symptoms worse. Another reason you may develop gastroparesis is due to a post-viral infection, which is pretty scary, so keep that in mind, able-bodied people. You could get sick one day and never get better. So think twice about how disability rights are right now and how they still need to improve, because you might need them someday. Anyway. You can also get gastroparesis if you have a connective tissue disorder. That is the reason I have gastroparesis, but I was diagnosed before I was diagnosed with a connective tissue disorder. So first I was diagnosed with idiopathic gastroparesis, which basically means we don't flippin' know the cause, which definitely doesn't feel great. Some symptoms of gastroparesis include vomiting, severe dehydration, malnutrition, bowel obstructions, nausea, bloating, pain, early fullness, acid reflux, constipation, and weight loss. Wow, that is a lot. The treatment for gastroparesis is change in diet, like eating easily digestible fiber, thoroughly cooked vegetables, because if they're raw, they're very hard to digest and will probably cause pain and vomiting. Replacing your fruit with juice and smoothies so it's easily to digest and you still get the nutrition you need. And eating 6 small meals a day instead of 3 big ones. That's personally the hardest one I struggle with, because it's hard to do that when you want to fit in with other people's schedules and lives. Another thing that's encouraged is exercise, because it can promote bowel movements and digestion. If this doesn't work, there are a very limited amount of medications you can try, but at least there's some medications. The first medication I tried, and usually the first medication most people try, was erythromycin. The problem is you cannot be on this medication long term due to it being an antibiotic. The next most common one is Reglan, which doctors try not to prescribe due to the black box warning that it can cause abnormal muscle movements. I was prescribed this one because it was the only one that got me out of the hospital. I always got it in an IV every time I was in the hospital. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people where medication wears off really fast and I build up a resistance. So I did not stay on it long. I had to wait a while to try a new medication though, because it is rigorous to get approved in America by insurance because it is banned here. I know it was scary for me too. I had to get a repeat gastric emptying study at EKG because the reason this medication is banned in the US is because it can cause cardiac arrhythmias, cardiac arrest, and sudden death. Totally not scary. This medication is called doperidone, and I got approved for it, and the doctor would get it shipped from Canada for me and other gastroparesis patients. Unfortunately, it did not work for me. I got sicker and hospitalized, given fluids for 3 days. Can't really remember it that well because I hadn't slept for a week because I was vomiting and nauseous so much. I got sent home after days of fluids and anti-nausea meds like Zofran, the kind that give cancer patients. Then I was sent home and I lost 30 pounds. My doctor said if I lost any more weight, he would put a tube up my nose. His awful words, not mine. Probably he should have worded that better. Most people with gastroparesis will not need a feeding tube. Those who do need it will need an NJ, not an NG, because it needs to pass through your stomach into your intestines, because your stomach does not work, so you would still vomit with an NG. The problem with this is you already have a weak stomach muscle. So go from it being used all the time to never makes your stomach even more slower, because if you don't use the muscle, you lose them, just like any other muscle. It is important to use them. So a feeding tube comes with that risk of it becoming permanent. So they would place a surgical feeding tube, which causes even more chance of infection like sepsis, because it's a hole in your small intestine. Keep in mind, this is the very last option. You can try Botox, and it is very painless. They put you under and do an endoscopy and give a shot of Botox in your pyloric sphincter, which is what lets food pass through your stomach to your intestines, which is typically too tight to let food pass if you have gastroparesis. When I was hospitalized, a surgeon recommended a G-poem, where they use an endoscope to cut your muscle near the pyloric sphincter, which helps relax the muscle. Recovery is a very hard process, though you cannot eat for the first day, then clear liquid diet for 3 days, then full liquid for 3 days, then soft diet for 3 weeks. I would be a bad candidate for the procedure because I would be high risk for infection. Luckily, the medication baclofen saved my life and I gained the weight back. I had never heard of it before until my doctor recommended it. It is like a muscle relaxer that works for gastroparesis by relaxing the pyloric sphincter, even though it is technically not made for gastroparesis and is supposed to help people with muscle spasms. People with gastroparesis also struggle with IBS and or constipation, so they sometimes prescribe meds for that, like laxatives, stool softeners, or new medications for IBS like Motegrity. They will also prescribe anti-nausea medications. There are a lot available, but the most common are Zofran and promethazine. I personally also had to get a scolopian, probably not how you pronounce it, patch when I was in the hospital, but you cannot be on those long term. Not sure why you can't be on those long terms. They are a big time lifesaver if you're in a really bad flare and you're hospitalized, though. They give those to people right after surgery to help the surgery nausea, but definitely not a long-term solution. Most anti-nausea meds are not a long-term solution, and you should not take them all the time. Like Zofran, you cannot take it daily because it can cause migraines and constipation, which most people with gastroparesis already struggle with. But you can take it multiple times a day, but you do have to take breaks. And I find it to be very helpful. There's a sublingual kind that melts under your tongue, which is very helpful because then you have to digest it because it goes under your tongue instead of through your stomach. Whereas pills can be harder to help because sometimes you'll throw them up hours later because you didn't digest them. So that is another big problem with the medications. You can try to get a lot of them liquid, which is helpful. I was on liquid erythromycin in the beginning when I couldn't digest anything, and that sort of helped for a while, luckily. It tasted really gross, though. Just a warning. Liquid erythromycin is like thick, gross milk. Do not recommend. Luckily, I'm doing okay with digesting meds right now. That can always change in the future, but I can take my own meds now, well, without them being liquid, so that's very helpful. The thing I also struggle with is vitamins, and a lot of people with gastroparesis do. So a lot of them are on vitamins B12, because that one is really hard to get. I'm also on vitamin D. You're just going to be on a lot of vitamins. They also recommend, like, just a multivitamin, because you need a lot of vitamins, because you're going to miss a lot of those. And it's very hard. Some people, though, will actually get better from gastroparesis, and there's no really reason why, because there's not much known about gastroparesis. Some people are even just born with it. Like, a lot of preemies also are born with it, but that's because their stomachs weren't fully developed. But yeah, there's not a lot known about it, or some people just sporadically get better. A lot of times exercise helps, or just like conditioning. I'm not really sure how that works. There's like the deep breathing you can do, which I really, really hate. The diaphragmatic breathing is supposed to relax your stomach. That also works with rumination syndrome, but they do get mixed up with each other sometimes. Like, doctors will misdiagnose you with gastroparesis, but it's actually rumination, or it can happen the other way around. So yeah, a lot of doctors will not like to diagnose or treat gastroparesis because it's rare and they straight up don't know what to do. I had that issue with my first doctor. They blamed a lot of it on anxiety or in my period. So that happens a lot to girls. I wish you good luck. And I really hope someday my gastroparesis magically goes away like some other people, but here's to hoping for that. Gastroparesis can go away. There's actually a movie about it, which is very strange. A girl falls out of a tree and hits her head exactly in the right spot, and her gastroparesis is cured. I mean, she almost died, but she woke up and her gastroparesis was cured. My dad said he'd push me out of the tree if I wanted, but I'm good on that note. People with gastroparesis also struggle with feeling hunger. They constantly feel full. So my gastroenterologist prescribed cyproheptadine, which is an antihistamine, but it also stimulates hunger. So a lot of people are on that for stimulating hunger, so you actually feel hungry. The problem with it, though, is that it is a depressant. A serotonin blocker. So it can cause depression to be worse, which is not great. And depression actually plays a big role in digestion, which is very strange. But mood plays a big part in everything. Like, anxiety can worsen pretty much any chronic illness, because if you're anxious, your whole body is anxious and it puts you in fight and flight mode. And yeah. So it's not the cause for your chronic illness, remember that, but it can make it worse. So don't let people diminish you with your mental health, because that definitely happens. And let me tell you, it is not fun, and I will fight them for you if you fight my doctors for me. Another very scary thing that can happen with gastroparesis is vomiting straight up blood. But it's actually okay, they tell me, because you vomit so much, you are destroying your throat. So your throat has scarred muscles and tears and stuff. So yeah, sometimes you'll vomit blood. But do not worry, it's normal, even though it doesn't sound normal at all. And unfortunately, my teeth are actually wrecked from the vomiting all the time, which absolutely sucks because I already hate dentists and it just makes the dentist even more judgy. So a lot of people with gastroparesis will become on prescription toothpaste to protect your already damaged teeth. It's supposed to block the acid from damaging your teeth and heal them. So definitely see your dentist regularly if you have gastroparesis, because you will probably have a lot of acid damage and a lot of cavities from the acid burning holes in them. So I wish you luck if you have this condition. It is a very hard one. And I hope you enjoyed my painting. Sorry I redid everything like 50 times. I really was struggling with getting the details. The stomach looks whack, okay? I should have used more references of my colonoscopy pictures. I've actually shown those to people in real life. They've been disgusted. It's kind of fun. Here is the final product. It has some of my prescriptions on it, actually. I put those on, and I put, like, the Zofran packages everyone hates that are very difficult to pop out. And I splattered some red paint on it to look like blood, because, yeah, gastroparesis is bloody. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you liked it. It helps me a lot. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.